it's Baron with One Chiropractic back with you today, and we're continuing the conversation with Dr. Hoffman. So up to this point, we've been talking about different things you can start communicating in the practice, and he's been talking to you about stressors. He's been talking to you about looking at connecting with them on words that are more emotionally charged and communicating. We talked about survival mode versus healing mode. We've talked about communicating with them on a level that they understand. And one of the things we talked about earlier that we're going to expound upon today is the difference between feeling and functioning, right? How do we get them? And that's really pain to brain, right? Those are two other terms for that same analogy. How do we get our patients from stopping to correlate health and success on how I feel and get them more communicating and understanding that health is actually about function and specifically more neurological function? So I'm going to let you take that away, Doc.
So if we're going to make a big deal, and I believe we have to make a big deal about the gap that you could drive a truck through between feeling better and functioning better, and if this is clearly one of the keys to build ongoing care, to get the patient to engage, to build compliance and retention, not for us, but to best serve that patient, we have to have a serious conversation that's not comfortable. And that is, how do we measure function? You could tell me you measure function by palpation or range of motion or leg lengths. I did that in practice. I get it. And I think we could even elevate how we do that.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, we still have to be able to document for the patient function versus dysfunction. And even though we may not like this, for a layperson, we have to recognize that God lives in a computer screen.
Right.
And it's got to be computerized. We've got to be able to show them with some chart, some graph that's easy to understand, that they can take home and show their wife or their sister or whoever, and instantly be able to repeat the story so that they can turn more people on. One of the reasons so many of our doctors don't get referrals is because their patients are not educated in a simple, logical story way that they can go home and repeat to other people.
Right.
They tell their husband, yeah, I went to the chiropractor. What did he do? He cracked my neck. Really? And who's coming in for that?
Right.
So we have to learn that. So we need to have a way to measure function. So before I get into some technology, let's keep the conversation simple and basic initially. If you're doing leg checks, I did it for decades. If you're doing leg checks and the one leg is shorter than the other, now we were taught in school, it's not anatomically a short leg. We used to call it a physiological short leg. But in reality, it's a neurological short leg, because the brain, when it's not functioning properly, will always be dysfunctional on one side. Might be the left, might be the right. Those are the only two choices, but it's going to be dysfunctional on one side. And because of the ipsilateral crossing over, it shows up on the opposite side. So for example, if someone's left leg is short, that is an indication to me that their right brain is dysfunctional. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So when the brain is stressed, when the brain is dysfunctional, one of the telltale signs is the body goes into a state of contraction and tension. That may show up in clenched fists or clenched shoulders or clenched jaw or just tension in the spine. But one of the ways it shows up is one leg contracts on the side opposite. So if I'm doing your leg check, Baron, and I see that your left leg is short your leg is short on the left side, I'm going to not just make mental note of that to proceed to adjust you. I'm going to make mental note, but say, Baron, what in the world's going on? Your brain is so stressed, your whole left side is contracted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now it has significance, right?
Right.
Now, you may tell me, well, I got into this huge fight with my wife, or I have this amazing deadline at work that's just driving me crazy, or my son has got the flu. You may fess up, but even if you don't, I'm okay. Now, I proceed to adjust you, however it is that I adjust you. We could talk about that another day, but I could proceed to adjust you. Now I check the legs and they're even. I don't just make mental note of that. I say something like this. Baron, your brain loves chiropractic adjustments. I mean, the second I adjusted you, the brain went into a state of relaxation and healing. The body relaxed and went back into a state of balance. You and I make a great team. See you Friday.
Yeah, love that.
See, it's a whole different conversation, isn't it?
Yep.
And it wouldn't be any different in range of motion, as an example. If I could only go 70% to the right and 50% to the left, well, I could feel it. That doesn't feel good, but I don't know what that means as a layman. But if I say, when the brain is balanced, the body is balanced. When the brain is imbalanced and dysfunctional, the body is imbalanced and dysfunctional. You're supposed to go 90 degrees right and 90 degrees left. Not only can't you do that to either side, but you don't do it evenly from one side to the other. This is an indication that you have a neurological problem. This is an indication that your brain is dysfunctional. Now you proceed to adjust the patient, and now they go from 70 to 90, and they go from 50 to 80, and you go, your brain loves getting adjusted. You're a classic chiropractic patient. No wonder you're getting such miraculous results. You see, we have to create credibility. Right. We have to create engagement. We have to get them as excited as we are. Now that's a problem because some of us aren't excited.
Let's just get
hopefully after watching this video, this series of videos that you've been producing, they will get more excited.
Yeah, I agree with that.
This is part of it. But in the real world, above and beyond that, we have to recognize that technology has exploded. Research has exploded. And there's all different ways to now document function or dysfunction. It could be some basic things like pulse oximetry, which, I mean, anybody could learn in 5 minutes.
Right.
It doesn't cost a lot of money, but it tells us about oxygen saturation or lack of saturation to your brain. Let me tell you, you do a pulse ox before and after an adjustment, if you adjusted the patient even remotely correctly, you're going to see a significant improvement.
Yeah.
There are things like Dr. Barwell. You mentioned Dr. Barwell on one of the other videos with his NeuroInfinity. But there are other tools out there. We don't have enough time to talk about them all. I just had my super conference in Tampa just 2 or 3 weeks ago. We had 25 different exhibitors that all had brain-based technology to either document and or correct brain imbalance in conjunction with chiropractic care. But today what I'd like to focus on is what's considered the gold standard in evaluating the autonomic nervous system. It's called heart rate variability. It's been around for 50 years. It hasn't been around in chiropractic for 50 years, but it's been around in the marketplace for that long. Heart rate variability is looking at documenting the lack of variation or the variation between heartbeats. A healthy person should have a lot of variation. An unhealthy person who's frozen doesn't have a lot of variation.
Right.
So heart rate variability is a critical test to evaluate the state of your autonomic nervous system. Now, I got to tell you, you can go out and buy a $150 heart rate variability tool, or you could spend $100 grand on heart rate variability. But a really good one that has excellent computer graphics that you could print out and give to the patient, that they can go home and show their family and explain it to them, is about $4 grand. It's not cheap, but it's not outrageous.
Right.
You'd earn back that money in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of the things I teach my doctor, here's another gem for you. I teach my doctor that when you do heart rate variability with a new patient and you explain what you found, the difference between their chronological and their biological age, the difference in their energy from 0 to 100, you're at a 39. The power that made the body heals the body, but your power is not on.
Right.
Okay? Or it'll even document sympathetic, parasympathetic, or hormone balance or imbalance or metabolism. There's all different tools that could potentially come with heart rate variability. When you're finished and that patient is locked in, committed, engaged, ask this question. Baron, I'm curious. If I ran this exact same 5-minute test on your family, what do you think I'm going to find? Now, let me tell you the answers, because I have dozens and dozens of doctors who do that, who give me feedback every week. 80% of the time, the patient goes, I don't know. And you jump in and go, but I do, which is exactly why I asked the question. Families have the same stress.
Right.
And unfortunately, the odds are overwhelming that if I did this on your husband, your children, or anyone else who's living in your home, I'm going to find problems very similar to yours. But they may not have the symptoms that you have yet.
Right.
So why don't we do this? Why don't I set you up to have your entire family's heart rate variability tested this week at no charge or obligation? If there's nothing wrong, I want you to have that peace of mind. But if there is something wrong, let me put together a customized program of care like I've done for you.
Yeah.
Now, 20% of the time, which is even more interesting, that patient will literally throw their family under the bus.
Right.
You do this on my husband, he's going to be 10 times worse than me.
Right.
Well, you're probably right. You know him certainly far better than I do. I've never met the gentleman. But let's not guess. Let's do the test. If it's in a normal range, I want you to have that peace of mind. And if it's not, let's put our heads together and come up with a plan of action.
Love
So
it.
I have doctors who are generating, not every patient refers one, but every 10 patients that you have that conversation, they're getting 10 referrals. Maybe 6 out of the 10 are referring, but half of the 6 out of the 10 are referring multiple people.
Right.
How awesome is that?
Yeah, and it's fantastic. But I stress this to people I talk to all the time. It doesn't matter if there's a referral or not. We don't do it for that reason. We do it for the reason of broadening the consciousness of the person we're talking about, right? We don't do things because we expect a return. We do them because they're the right things to do, right? And yes, of course, I understand ROI. If I'm spending $4,000 on a device, I want to make sure I'm not losing it. But the whole point of this entire series is that we've got to start doing things for the right reasons. We've got to stop letting reimbursement. We've got to stop letting overhead drive our decisions and behavior. Too many chiropractors add things to their clinic because they think it's a revenue generator, or they think that they're adding it because it's going to fix a problem, not because it's something they believe in. When we start going to this neurologically based chiropractic and we're driving from a brain first, it's natural that we want to quantify some of those things. I love the initial part of this video where you're talking about just the same thing we're doing now, just communicating it differently, from leg lengths to posture, right? All that stuff. Again, we've got to connect those dots. But people do want tangible types of things. And, if we have practitioners willing to spend $13,000, $14,000 on surface EMGs, I got to tell you, I would much rather have a heart rate variability in my office that's measuring something that's trusted in the world of healthcare. I mean, we fight over and over, and I'm not knocking EMGs. I'm knocking, don't tell me you can't afford it, right? Because, but the EMGs prove the point that you made earlier. People love graphs with pictures and all that kind of stuff, even though it's not reproducible and a lot of variables. So I love, the heart rate variability, and you didn't really touch on this, but dude, everyone understands the heart. Everyone knows how important the heart is. If you ask an average person what is the most important organ in your body, they typically say heart, because of all of the branding and the brainwashing that's happened throughout all of our world. And so, if you start connecting that dot, I think it's amazing to have patients going home showing their family, here's a heart rate variability. Like, I thought you were going to the chiropractor. Well, I did. What are they doing measuring your heart? Oh, well, I learned today, right? That's that changing of the consciousness of what chiropractic is about. So I love all that stuff. Absolutely.
And just one point on your comment. Another really good reason why we do this, you're 100% right. The money will come. That's not the issue. It's about serving people, changing the conversation, rebranding chiropractic. But there's another benefit by getting that patient to refer in their family. Families that are healing together do a lot better.
Oh, absolutely.
If someone's coming into you for care and starting to heal, but they go home and there's constant stress, constant bickering, nobody's talking to each other, everybody's fighting, that person is not going to get ideal results.
That's right.
So I want the whole family under care, if possible, because they get well together. When the tide comes in, it rises all everybody.
That's right. I love it. Awesome. Great stuff. Well, we thank you, Dr. Hoffman, again for another time. We're coming back tomorrow. We're going to start tying some things up here with Dr. Hoffman. I can't thank you for all the knowledge that you've just been dumping on us over the last few sessions. It's just been an incredible process. Again, I do want to remind those of you, if you haven't done it yet, I don't mean to be a broken sword, but I love free things, and free things that help me achieve my goal are even better. I do want to remind you about the free book that Dr. Hoffman is offering to you with the 41 different articles and research studies and all the different things that you need to become more confident about this conversation of the brain in your practice. So all you got to do is text 1-ONE to 516-231-6762. 516-231-6762. Text the word one. You'll have to give a little bit of information, your name, your address, your email. And then after you get the book, you're going to get, a couple days later, you'll get some emails that are showing videos on how to actually communicate this to your patient, of Dr. Hoffman sharing with you and going through some things for you. So those are great resources that are available to you. And lastly, as I always end every video, share this series. I hope you're getting deeper into the rabbit hole, and I hope you get so deep you can't come out, because you're just so saturated, marinating, which is our new word from Dr. Hoffman, marinating in the truth of what we're sharing through this series. So we appreciate you. Have an incredible day, and we'll see you tomorrow. God bless.